Hi, I'm Chris from CweltonDesign, and I'm here to talk about my favorite new feature of Lumion 11, the animated phasing effect. Now, I've done a video covering all of Lumion 11's new features and briefly touched on this one, but I want to make a video dedicated to this effect and all of the capabilities it has, and really showcase some excellent examples that I've been able to put together. So, if you followed my content before, you know that I focus a lot on construction sequence animations. I just recently put out a video talking about how to tell a construction story and why to do 40 sequence animations. That was before I knew this effect existed at all. I am super excited. It's a dream come true, this type of effect. It is not perfect. It completely changes the game in Lumion's capability and dedication to construction. But that is not all they had in mind. So in this tutorial, we're going to talk about the user interface of this effect, but it's actually really simple. We're gonna go through how simple this is, how to make complex things happen in it, and we're even gonna go through some example scenes I've put together. So with that, we'll jump into the effect. Okay, so here we are in another basic Lumion scene. We got a beautiful circle of trees right here and a couple other interesting objects we're going to experiment with and learn how to use this animated phasing effect, and a couple things we can get into the basics with. So right off the bat, animated phasing effect is only going to be in the movie mode for obvious reasons. You don't want to see it in stills or 360. Just going to quick 10-second clip right here, and here we need to add the effect. It's found in the effects, and right now it's in Lumion 11. It's in the featured, but in case you're watching in the future and it's Lumion 12 or Lumion 33 or something, this is where it will actually reside, in the animation tab right here. Just kidding, this UI is going to be completely different in Lumion 33. Okay, so this opens the animated phasing user interface. So we have this top bar here that lets us control the animation types and select our objects, and then down here we have these awesome interactive time bars that we can add and adjust as we please, and we can rename them, and anything we adjust in here will affect it visually down there. It's really quite an awesome system. I'm very happy with how they've built this out. There's even more tabs, more pages. You can add as many as you want. Let's start at the top. Notice we have layers available to switch on and off. That's huge. Maybe not right now in this scene. I'm telling you, that's really awesome that they have that available. And this top part is just to name that bar. We'll say this is the first phasing effect. Straightforward. You're going to need to organize these things if you have a really complex long animation. So notice that we have this other bar here that says objects 0. This is where we're going to assign objects to this bar. So click on this edit key, and now notice our interface has changed again. We have our familiar different families of objects here for convenience. You know, we have trees going on, and I do have some people in the distance. You know, straightforward. This can be a fully populated scene, and we need to be able to navigate specific parts. Notice that the layers are up here too. Again, really nice. So, a couple things we can do. We can just go ahead and start selecting them this way, or we can just do a big bounding box. They're not selected yet. Some are and some aren't. Then you click, and now they're all selected, or click again, they are deselected. Or say we select these, but we want to get rid of these. Now, you can see we have 11 objects selected, now 20. We're going to talk about this stagger center in a second, and there's also a stagger in order of selection. But for right now, we have 20 objects selected. Notice that they've turned off because our timeline is at the very bottom, and as we play it, whatever default settings are animating them in right now. What you're seeing is pop in. We're going to go over all these styles in a moment, but at first let's look at the fact that we have a start and an end. So we are starting with nothing and bringing our objects in. We can also set this to no effect and have our objects go out. Or both. Pop in, pop out. Whatever your needs are, we have some flexibility right here. For right now, I'm going to just keep it on the start animation. So this start time is just controlling where we move this in here. So if we adjust this in here, we're going to have that timeline affected. And right now, there is this auto tab right here for conforming to our sequence length. But we can uncheck that and make it however many seconds we want for whatever reason. But for right now, we're going to make it conform to whatever we set this as. If I go and change this to 15 seconds, go back into here, auto is set to 50. But depending on the length of your animation, if you have a weird number, some of these ticks aren't going to make a lot of sense. We're going by threes right now, so if I needed something to be 4.5, 3, 4, 5, it doesn't really work. So that's when this comes in handy of understanding where exactly you want to have it in. I'd say I need to be at 4.8 seconds. There you go, 4.8. That's what this is for, or you can just visually move it here. The duration, notice that there's a dark section of this blue bar and then a light section. That dark section represents the duration. Pretty straightforward. Fast duration, fast animation, long duration, slow animation. Got it. Our ease in is the way it animates in. So right now it's linear. It just basically 0 to 100 in a straight line. Whereas ease in is going to have kind of that more poppy type thing. If you do infographics, it's those little pops and blips. It's that kind of thing, controlling that style, but you can kind of go in between too. Now, this is one of the most important ones here. It's the stagger. Right now, they're all coming in at once. So if we want to make it so only one at a time comes up, we turn the stagger all the way up. Now we're popping one at a time. Now this order is important. It kind of looks random, but I'll tell you what's controlling it. What's controlling it, if we go back into edit mode, is this stagger center. This little point right here, imagine it's like an earthquake or an expanding sphere. As it expands out, whatever it touches is going to animate first. But because it's kind of in the center of all these objects, it kind of just hits them all at different random points. If I were to move it to this side right here, it's going to expand out, hit this guy, then this one, this one, this one, this one, all the way across. Let's take a look. Here we're seeing that exact effect. Or it starts from this side. It's just kind of coming across. I can go in now, move it to the bottom here, same idea. So that's pretty cool. Lumion gives us a little control right here and making a kind of pretty sequence pop in. And the stagger doesn't have to be, of course, 0 to 1. We can have it somewhere in the middle, so multiple are coming in at once. Or we have it like close to the top, so like 1 or 2 are coming in at once, depending on how many objects you have. Alright, so next phase of stagger effect is understanding stagger in order of selection. So what if we want to have a randomized, just completely randomized way of animating things in? We don't want it to go in a wave across or have some sort of weird, even if we put it in the middle like we saw there, it's still not exactly random. The way to kind of get a pretty decent random effect is to go ahead and just reselect it with this box, stagger order of selection, make sure that's checked on. And now we're getting kind of a more randomized thing. Maybe there is some pattern going on, but it is close as random as we can get. Now, what if we needed to have a exact sequence, which is something I have to have in my type of construction animations. I need to show the pillars coming into this exact moment, the different sequence of slabs or footings. That is where we go in. We need to deselect everything. Of course, make sure this is on, and just click one at a time. And whatever in this precise order. And you know what? I will definitely be using this on over 100 objects at a time in some of my animations. But I am just so glad that I have that control. And let's watch it go now. Actually, I have invert on. So that was the order I selected it. We can have a little bit of a couple at a time. We have kind of a wave. And the other thing is, let's do one more. Let's just do like every other. There we go. So we have been given a lot of leeway and control over these type of sequences coming in, and I think that is super awesome. So we've seen the power of a lot of these effects. Now let's look at the different stylings that Lumion has provided with us. So we've been looking at this pop-in, and pretty straightforward. Pop-in is basically the object is sitting there at a scale of 0 and just scaling up to its normal amount. Next we have Skydrop. Notice that we do get 2 more settings in here. So let's just go ahead and watch it in. So they're coming in from the sky in that order we selected. The move distance is how far away it starts from. We can make it so it barely travels any distance to have a smoother animation, or if we go from further, it's going to come in faster. And then we can make it so it's invisible or not when it starts. There might be some cool reason to do this, but for now it's just cool we have the option. You can see their shadows up there. Now if we go back to the styles and go to ground rise, this is just the counterpart, the evil nemesis of Skydrop. It's the polar opposite. It has the same settings in here. You can make it so they are poking out of the ground before. And then implode is pretty cool. I have them so they are not invisible before start. So they just kind of come in from the outside, or they just appear from the outside. And the move distance, same deal. How far away it comes from. And then all of these effects have their counterpart in here. So pop in has pop out, sky rise, ground drop, and explode, the opposite of implode. And they're going to have similar sliders. So again, embedded in this one little group or phasing animation is these objects. Say I wanted to add the people over here into a new one, I could go in and grab them like this. And now we have 2 different effects going on. We control when they come in. You're starting to see the power this can do, separating multiple parts of a building into these controlled layers. It's very cool, and it's very easy to edit later, which has been one of the harder things working in these advanced animations and trying to edit things later. So you can keep adding, and then I'll create more pages. I have yet to fill them all. I don't know how many I'll go to, but it's seemingly infinite. Maybe I shouldn't say that. You do have a copy and paste animation if you want to just have a copy and paste exact settings and timings into other layers, so they can kind of have they can go together and be very similar in timing. One more thing I want to point out too, which is super cool. Notice how these trees are all sequenced now precisely in our animated phasing effect, and they're in this circle, and they're at this scale. We can actually go into here and tweak several properties of these things, and they can even move them. Watch this though. It retains what you set up in build mode. So you can essentially program the whole thing and completely move every single part, and Lumion will still keep all the attachments and all the sequencing intact. It's not overriding their scale, their master scale, or anything. So that's really cool too. Advanced tip. Okay, so while we're in this scene, let's go ahead and showcase a couple little examples of what we can do with some of these other groups I have set up on here. So up on the mountains here, I just set up little dominoes They're imported objects that I just did a mass placement along a line, and they're just roughly following the terrain to get a kind of cool effect. And I went ahead and sequenced them all to just disappear as they go with the animated phasing effect. Following the same idea, I just clicked them one at a time and followed that sequence. I made a little camera path. Very simple. This is a start, no effect, and end, ground drop. I thought it worked just fine for this example. So there's the settings here. It's setting to stagger, ease in and out. The duration's all kind of set up in here, and you can see that they're imported objects selected in that specific precise order. Another kind of fun one I did is I have all these cars set up here. I just kind of did some fun selections and different patterns and different orders. Okay, so moving on to another fun example project. This is my first project with the animated phasing effect, and I really had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a great example of a real world use case for this effect. Utilizing what we learned in the basics, let's take a look at this animation here. This is actually an animation for a company that makes bamboo panels called Centric. It's really cool. The story behind this is how simple these homes can be to build, and they're sustainable. They're made out of grass and different reeds that grow in bamboo, which grow abundantly and quick. So that's a big part of their pitch. That's a big part of their story. So explaining and demonstrating how simple this could be in a fun diagrammatic way was the perfect example for the animated phasing effect. Couldn't have come in a more perfect time. Otherwise, I would have animated all these either through layers or advanced move. So then we have a couple layers popping on and off and show the thing completed. So let's go ahead and go back and take a look at this effect and how I built it. Notice this is a project of multiple layers. As I mentioned before, very happy that they have layers up here. It's crucial. Let's go ahead and turn off all the furniture. We'll turn on this base. There's duplicates in here. Turn off the side, turn off exterior finishes, and turn on panels, because this is all that's animated in here. So you can see I have each of my little phasing groups in here labeled, starting with the base. Simple ground rise. Then we got base rails, and that is another ground rise popping in sequence. And then we start getting to the panels. I broke it up by room, so section 1. So grabbed all those guys room by room so I can control them. I could make it so this one started before 3 if I wanted to, without really messing with anything. And I can butt up the ends and tails of these effects to line them up. Now notice we're starting to see things that aren't happening because we're on tab 2. So section 4 pops in, and then we have little top plates that just do a sky drop down and then a sequence sky drop down for the roofs. Pretty straightforward. You might have caught something interesting in here though. Why is this one here and this one not here? One of the few minor flaws, or maybe it's a big flaw of the UI they built. They put so much time into this, but there's a little thing they've mixed up. We cannot move these up or down. So if we build this sequence out and then the owner says, hey, actually we want to have a sequence of other things happening before all this other stuff. Maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal if we had a bunch of rows that went up to here. But if we have to hide something in, page 6 that's going over here, it's really hard to align things. We got to rely on that start time. Ultimately, I decided this one needed to go later, so it looks weird. So yeah, that's the effect. That is a use case here, and let's take a look at the fully rendered out version of that. And what's happening here, these are just layer on and off, just a bunch of things happening with animations. So how I created this is important too. This is a crucial step. We cannot just bring in a model that has all these panels and start animating them individually. One of the biggest drawbacks of Lumion right now with this type of effect is you have to bring in imported models one at a time. I have had over 200 models, in one of my projects, yeah, I have to sit there and import it each time. And even the light ones, it takes a second. Hopefully it's something that they fix in the future. They're moving in that direction of catering to these type of animations. Look what they did for this effect. But one hack that I found out that you certainly have to do in this case, definitely you're not gonna import each piece of these panels as their own model. If they're the same panel, you import it once and then you just manually copy and paste that and fit it in there. What I do is I bring in the source model, which I think I have here, structural align, and I just copied and pasted each one of these pieces into place. That way I didn't have to import more than one instance of these type of models. The red, one yellow, one short red, one blue, in the base. Worked out fine for this type of model, but that's definitely a big thing to think about when you're working with imported models. The type of animations that I need to do are still very difficult to bring in the first place, but now they're so much easier to manage with this type of effect. Be able to quickly go back and make edits and just interactively change and tweak things and reassign things. There's been major changes and it really has not been so bad. I'm really happy for that. So moving on in this same project, this is where the architectural part can come in. This is how architects can utilize this effect super easily in their existing projects to tell stories. So in this model here, I've gone in and populated the entire interior with Lumion furniture. We have so many objects in here. We may have to bring in imported objects one at a time, but we already have tons of things that are already loaded in Lumion when you install it. I'm sure you noticed the download size. Those are all objects that are going to have cool nodes, so we can quickly speed place everything in here and have all sorts of fun nodes to play with and animate. So in this case, I want to do a cool shot where I have an empty room. The panels have just come in and they've been finished, and then we're populating it and making it a home. And I do that for each one of the rooms. So for this first example, it's already done, where we come in, looking out the window, and all the furniture is just kind of flying in. Get that kind of look. Super easy. Alright, so we're going to do one right here. Another room, fully populated. I have the animated phasing effect in here. All we need to do, so I'm just going to go ahead and select them all. Alright, and we're going to take this stagger center here. I'm going to move it to this side because the camera is pulling back, and they'll just populate the room as we go across. Just like that. A couple button clicks. And now we're looking at a room that's just popping up as we go. I look forward to seeing some more Lumion animations that take advantage of this. I used to do this with 3ds Max. There's some scripts that would do similar things. It is so nice to have it inside of Lumion though, that I can't tell you how much simpler that makes everything go. Assign, put on layers, you're going. If you can go back into your old scene where you've populated Lumion furniture, you just grab them all and we can animate them in some cool ways that Lumion already has pre-programmed. Couple button clicks, done. So in conclusion, with this effect, it is there, ready to go, and when you have the opportunity, I highly suggest you try it out. I think the game has changed here. Specifically talking about construction, Lumion is worth looking at again. This is a huge step in the right direction. If you've left Lumion because of limitations before, if you're specifically in sequence animations, I suggest looking back at it again. It is a huge time saver, and it is really well done. It's not perfect, but man, it is good. I'm so excited utilizing the animated phasing effect. Thanks for watching, and let me hear your thoughts. I'd love to respond to any comments that you guys leave. All right, until next time.